Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dispelling Anti-Mormon Lies, Myths and Rumors, and Cultural Inaccuracies. Today, I'm going to be talking about the temple. I've had quite a few users request that I talk about the temple, but I'm going to talk about the temple in a way that probably nobody expects. Today, I'm going to talk about the temple and something that is super important, and that's temple marriage. Before I get jumping in, if you guys want to go ahead and post where you're from, it's always fun to see people from all around the world tuning in to watch these. Once again, my name is Jeremy Goff. So today I want to talk about the importance of temple marriage. Now, we know that in order to be exalted, we must go through the temple. We know that we must be sealed together. We know that a husband and a wife need to be married in the temple, and that man without woman or woman without man cannot be exalted. These are things that are stressed about pretty commonly and openly within the church. Now, there are a couple things about the sealing ordinance that we don't talk about as openly, and that is what actually we do within the sealing ordinance. And I'm not talking about, what physically we do or what covenants we make, but what actually happens. See, there's such a thing called the patriarchal order of the priesthood, and that is the order of the priesthood that enables us to be exalted. And that is entered into by both man and woman together in the temple. This is why when it comes to ordained women, that they're being disingenuous at best, or they don't understand the gospel. Because anyone who has been sealed together with their husband, they jointly hold the patriarchal priesthood together. Women can't receive it by themselves, and neither can men. But that's not actually even what I want to talk about today. Today, I want to talk about the power of the sealing ordinance, specifically when it comes to wayward children. Now, this is a topic that is talked about, but not really frequently. The quotes I'm going to share are quotes from LDS.org and quotes from conference, but they're quotes that honestly bring a lot of comfort. And I feel like there's a lot of people who have wayward children who need to hear these quotes. When I was a missionary, I had a lot of people ask me the question of, well, what if I do all these things and one of my kids goes astray? And the answers I gave were the best that we could explain of, hey, you can only focus on yourself or things like that. And the truth of the matter is those answers are not accurate. When it comes to the sealing power, there is something more powerful that's at play here. And within the sealing ordinance, we have a doctrine that is what Orson Whitney calls the most comforting doctrine that Joseph Smith ever taught. I want to read a quote by Orson F. Whitney that he gave in General Conference and was then repeated in General Conference by Boyd K. Packer in 1992. So the quote goes, quote, "The prophet Joseph Smith declared, and he never taught a more comforting doctrine, that the eternal sealings of faithful parents and their divine promises made for them for valiant service in the cause of truth would save not only themselves, but likewise their posterity. Though some of the sheep may wander, the eye of the shepherd is upon them, and sooner or later they will feel the tentacles of divine providence reaching out to them and drawing them back to the fold. Either in this life or in the life to come, they will return. They will have to pay their debt to justice and will have to suffer for their sins, and may tread a thorny path. But if it leads them at last, like the penitent prodigal, to a loving, forgiving father's heart and home, the painful experience will not have been in vain. Pray for your own careless and disobedient children. Hold on to them with faith. Hope on, trust on, till you see the salvation of your God." Now, this is the doctrine I want to talk about. It's been referred to by some as the doctrine of vicarious righteousness or vicarious works. See, this whole story revolves around the prodigal son, and I think that we misunderstand this parable. The prodigal son parable, the man has two children. One of them seeks for his inheritance and wastes it. He goes into the far country, spends it all, and he comes back. And the father welcomes him back into the house when he has repented. And he says, you're not going to be a servant in my house, you're going to be a son. Now, we often think of this as, the father's forgiving, he's brought him right back in with equal status. But that's not the case. He did not say, you will be a son, I'm going to take half your brother's inheritance and give it to you. He'd already used his inheritance. He's already spent that opportunity, but he's going to be welcomed home as a son. Within the celestial kingdom, there are 3 kingdoms or degrees. And when someone has been sealed and they keep their sealing covenants, if a wayward child falls away and repents and has forsaken the gospel and eventually through the tentacles of divine providence, as Joseph Smith put it, they repent and come back, they're not going to come back as exalted people. They're going to come back as saved people in the celestial kingdom. And they're going to have a reward, but it won't be the same reward as the faithful son. To the faithful son, the father in the story tells him, "Son, all that is mine is thine. This brother which was once lost is now alive and home." And so really that's what we're dealing with here. The reason this doctrine isn't taught very much is probably because we don't want to stress the fact that you can settle. We always teach towards exaltation. We always teach people what they need to do to be exalted. We don't like to teach people this is what you do just to get into the celestial kingdom. Everything in the gospel is about bringing to pass the immortality and eternal life of man. That's what our focus is. I bring this up because I know a lot of parents who are struggling. They're struggling with the fact they have wayward children, and they struggle with what will happen to them. This doctrine right here emphasizes the point that if they are obedient to their sealing covenant, if they keep the faith, if they are obedient and they are worthy, that one day God will reach out to their children and bring them home. They won't be exalted, but they will be together in heaven. Just because you're not exalted doesn't mean your family won't be together forever. The celestial kingdom is where they can be together forever. And the celestial kingdom will be full of those people who are both exalted and those who are not. Now, I want to go over to more of when this was shared. This was shared by Boyd K. Packer in a conference talk called Our Moral Environment in April of 1992. I'll be sharing the quotes and the link in the comments below. But this, after sharing that quote from Orson F. Whitney, where he talked about what Joseph Smith taught, Boyd K. Packer says, quote, "We cannot overemphasize the value of temple marriage. These binding ties of the sealing ordinance and the standards of worthiness required of them. When parents keep the covenants they have made at the altar of the temple, their children shall be bound to them forever." He goes on to quote Brigham Young, and he says, quote, "Let the father and the mother who are members of the church and kingdom take a righteous course and strive with all their might never to do wrong, but to do good all of their lives. If they have one child or 100 children, if they conduct themselves towards them as they should, binding them to the Lord by their faith and prayers, I care not where those children go. They are bound up to their parents by an everlasting tie, and no power of earth or hell can separate them from the parents in eternity. They will return again to the fountain from whence they sprang." This doctrine is vital to understand because not everyone is going to choose the right. Not everyone is going to want to live the gospel. But this doctrine teaches us that if we live what is right and we do what is right and we keep our covenants, that either in this life or in the next life, in the spirit world, through the obedience that we have manifested to God and through obedience to the laws of the house of the Lord, and what Doctrine and Covenant says, they will be saved. They will be saved not just into a kingdom of glory, but they will be allowed to be saved into the celestial kingdom where the families can be together forever. The family unit only exists in the celestial kingdom. This doctrine, vicarious righteousness, as it is called by some, the tentacles of the divine providence is how Joseph Smith put it. It doesn't matter what you want to call it. This doctrine, is my opinion, I agree, is the most comforting doctrine. That if you do what is right, your family will be together forever. Now you understand the importance of a temple marriage. Now you understand why they stress so much that you need to marry in the temple. You need to marry worthily, because these promises are invaluable. If you marry outside the temple and your child falls away, you don't have these promises. These promises are for righteous parents who do what is right, who keep their covenants, marry in the temple, and have these promised blessings made to them, and they keep them. Now, a note is that if someone does get married outside the temple and their work is done for them after they die, whether the work was done for them in person or after their death, it is the same validity. But it is also important to remember that in this life is our time to prepare to meet God. We do these things now so we can be exalted. We should never settle on the notion that one day our parents' righteousness is going to be enough to help us get into the celestial kingdom. Who would settle for entrance into Disneyland without a pass to ride all the rides, when you could have the pass of all passes? You could have the whole kingdom given to you. Truly, our Heavenly Father, like the prodigal son, will forgive those who return. But is it not better to be like the other son, who gets told, "Son, all that is mine is thine"? That is our goal. That is what Jesus Christ came to earth to enable. Families to be together forever and exaltation to happen. If you have a topic you'd like me to talk about in the future, feel free to post it in the comments or message me. But today, this is what I felt like I need to talk about. You guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Bye.